Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about how to properly use the solvent system that we have here in the Yoon group. And this is what it looks like. It is in Middle Earth, right next to the stench hood with the rotavap in it. We have 5 solvents available to us in the solvent system. We have tetrahydrofuran, diethyl ether, toluene, methylene chloride, and acetonitrile. So the first thing you want to do when you want to get some solvent is we have a notebook here that has tabs for each one of these solvents. So if you're about to pull some solvent, just go to the proper tab. I need some THF for a reaction that I'm about to run. So you just write down your initials, about how much solvent you're going to pull. If it's not exactly correct, that is okay. I need about 75 milliliters for what I'm about to do. And then you just write down the time. This is about 11 o'clock a.m. And this is so anybody else who comes up to the solvent system and say, as you can see in these bulbs here, there is some solvent left over, you know you can go to this notebook and figure out exactly who pulled this solvent, and you can go and ask them if they're done with it, and if they are, then you can use it yourself, or if there isn't quite enough in the bulb that you're looking for, then you can purge the bulb through the bottom here, empty it out, and then pull some fresh solvent for yourself. So as you can see here, there is not quite enough solvent in the THF bulb for what I need. I need about 75 milliliters, and as you can see on the lines that are written here, it looks like there's only about 25 milliliters. I don't know if you can see that or not. So then all you can do is just purge the bulb and close it. We have some Erlenmeyer flasks in the stench hood that you can use. And so the first step, once you have an empty bulb and you're ready to start pulling some solvent, is to purge the bulb with nitrogen 3 times. So as you can see here on the controls for each one of these solvents, there's 3 dials. One that has this big metal piece on it, and then 2 other ones here. And this layout, the way they are set right now, is the resting state of the solvent system. So if you come across the solvent system and the solvent you're trying to pull does not look like this, you should try to figure out why. Maybe someone is currently in the process of purging the bulb. So what you do first is, to purge the bulb, is you take this dial with the big metal piece on it and just flip it over to the left, and there's going to be a loud noise as the vacuum turns on, so hopefully you can still hear me as this is going. But yeah, so now as you can see, there is a pressure gauge over here to let you know that the pressure inside the bulb is indeed dropping, and it will turn off around 16 torr. Yeah, once it hits 16 torr, the vacuum will turn off, and then you can just cycle it around again. And all of the things you need to know how to do to run the solvent system are laid out right here on this sheet that is at the solvent system at all times. Lets you know what the resting state of the solvent system should be, how the valves should look, and then it walks you through exactly what you should do. So here it says you should do 5 pump purge cycles. I personally typically do 3. That works for most, chemistry that you need dry solvents for. If it is a particularly air sensitive or oxygen and water sensitive reaction, then maybe you want to do 4 or 5 purge cycles, but me personally, I have had success with 3. So as you can see here, we're working our way down to the 16 mark, and we're gonna have to do this a couple more times. So I guess in this time I can use to talk about what these other two valves on the solvent system do. So yeah, this valve right here, the red one that is pointing down, is what is essentially the argon or vacuum source, or kind of outlet to the bulb. So as you can hear, the vacuum turned off. It was around 15. So all we have to do is to continue our 3 pump purge cycles is just flip this all the way back to the resting position. You'll kind of hear like a hiss as argon refills the bulb, and then we just flip it back again, and you can kind of see a big puff of solvent as the vacuum turns on. So yeah, all we're doing right now is just making sure that this empty bulb is rigorously free of oxygen and water, because we only want argon in there. But as I was saying, this thing that is pointing down means that this valve is open to either argon or vacuum. So when we flip this metal thing back and forth, it is allowing the vacuum and the argon to be put into the bulb. This other dial right here is what is the solvent port. So if you were to open this, this is what would allow solvent into the bulb. And so the reason we have this metal piece on this dial here is when you're turning vacuum, when you're pulling vacuum in the bulb, you never want to also put solvent in, because it will be immediately sucked up into the vacuum. So that is why this piece is here. If you're ever pulling vacuum, you're blocked from accessing the solvent dial, so that you are not losing solvent and also not ruining the vacuum that we have here. So we're coming down to 16 again, one final purge pump cycle. You can do one more. And also other things that we have here at the solvent system, there is the system manual. I can't imagine why you would need this for anything, but if you should find yourself curious about it, there are just various details about how the solvent system works. One thing I should note, the only unique solvent, or that has an extra step of things to do that you don't have to do for the other 4, because the procedure is the exact same for all of these solvents. Methylene chloride has an extra step, and you can see it's written here on the alumina column. It says, be sure you open or close the DCM valve column after use. And there is another valve on the bottom of each one of these solvent columns. Not the black one in the front, but it's the colored ones in the back, and you can see that this blue one is turned to the side, while on all the other ones the colored thing in the back is pointing straight up and down. And this is just because methylene chloride is very dense and very heavy, and if we don't close this valve, the solvent can kind of fall back down out of the column. So we just keep this valve closed, and that keeps the solvent system running well. Okay, so after all my talking, while we're waiting for the vacuum to purge, we are now done. We have done three purge pump cycles. So inside the bulb should be, well actually right now it's just vacuum, but there should be no water or oxygen or anything like that present. So the thing to do next, if you ever forget, remember, just come back here. So we've done our purge pump cycles. The next thing we need to do is put the bulb under static vac. And the way we do that is by closing this argon vacuum valve. So now that this is perpendicular, there is, if we were to turn on argon or vacuum, it wouldn't be going directly into this bulb. So now that we have this under static vac, the next thing to do is turn on the argon pressure to push out the solvent. So we're going to turn this back, but because we had closed this valve, this did not fill up with argon. All this is doing is now the argon pressure is on, and if we were to turn this solvent dial, solvent would start pouring out. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We are now at the step where we are ready to pull our solvent. And so as I mentioned, I'm looking to pull about 75 milliliters, and each one of these bulbs has some permanent marker lines drawn on it for approximate solvent volumes. They are not exact by any means, but it's always a good idea to pour more solvent than you think you need, because someone else in the group might need to use it, and it's really terrible to go through this whole process of pulling, or purge and pump, and to find out at the very end that you don't have enough solvent. So it's always a good rule of thumb to just pull a little more than you think you might need. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to slowly turn this solvent dial, and as you can see, it is now starting to fill up with solvent, and I'm going to stop it right about at 100 mils, just so I'm 100% certain that I have all that I need. Then to stop the solvent flow, you just turn it back perpendicular. And now the last thing to do is we need to pressurize this bulb with argon, because it is currently still under vacuum. So we just slowly turn this, and you can see it kind of cause a disturbance on the surface of the liquid, because now there's an argon atmosphere. And as you'll notice, now we have returned our tetrahydrofuran dials back to the resting state. So now they match all the rest. So yeah, that is what you need to do. And then to get the solvent out, I guess the final step is you need to grab a syringe and needle, and there's a septa on the top. All you need to do is just open this, and now you can stick your needle in, pull out the solvent that you need. Once you're done, just close this again, and you're good to go. So that is how to use the solvent system.